Hi, this is Debbie. Welcome back to Cheyenne Life. And it is a cold, cold day. We still have some snow lingering around, at least a little bit of traces here and there. This is after the supposed to have been big snowstorm that ended up only being a couple inches, but it did get pretty cold. And what have I been doing today? Cooking. Staying inside, keeping the stove on, keeping the house warm, and cooking. So what have I been making? Well, asparagus soup. And this is actually a Switzerland recipe for asparagus soup. And I'm going to tell you how to make it, even though I've already got it made here. Again, I don't have a tripod or anything, so I'll just try to go through the steps with you so you can see how absolutely delicious this soup is. It's very simple to make. Sorry about that, my finger's in the way. And all you need is about 600 grams of asparagus, or I'm not really sure of what the conversion is too much. I just kind of guesstimate. So I just get a big bunch of asparagus, probably about a pound's worth. Make sure you snap the ends off. If you just bend the asparagus in both hands, it will snap itself where the most tender parts are. So snap the ends off, the root base or at the end of the asparagus. And then you're going to want to get a pot of water about a quarter of the way up on the pot. And I think these are about maybe 6-quart or 4-quart pots here. It's just a basic soup pot. So you want to fill that up about a quarter of the way with water, and then add a teaspoon of white vinegar and a tablespoon of white sugar into the water. And this is going to actually make the base for your soup. And then you're going to boil that asparagus, get it on a rolling boil, and boil it for about 15 to 20 minutes until you see the asparagus is starting to turn from a bright green to a more of an olive color green. And then you're going to want to take the asparagus off of the stove, and you're going to want to keep the water. So you'll need to strain your asparagus, or you can just take tongs. I take tongs and take my asparagus out of the water, put it on a chopping board, and just chop it up as finely as you can, or you can use a Ninja. I have a Ninja where I can just blend it up into a smaller bits, as you can see little tiny bits in there. And make sure you save that water. And then you're actually going to get about 600 grams of flour. Again, I just guesstimate, so I usually use about a half cup of flour and a half cup of butter or a stick of butter. And you're going to get another pot, same size, and put the butter in, melt it on about medium to low on your stove if it's an electric stove. And then you're going to add the flour in, the half cup of flour, and make a roux. And what you're going to do with that is you're going to keep stirring it with either a whisk, or in my case, I just like to use a fork, and just make sure that it's really, really, really smooth, and keep cooking it for about 1.5 to 2 minutes until it gets kind of golden. And to that, you're going to go ahead and add 1 container of chicken broth. Let me show you the size here. And I think, yes, this is just a 32 ounce chicken broth. I use the Members Mark from Sam's Club chicken broth, or I use my own chicken broth. I just happened to have that left over. I made chicken broth yesterday, but I'm going to save that for the winter. So you're going to add that into the roux and keep stirring it. You're going to keep the whisk on it the whole time, because it's going to start to immediately thicken up, and you don't want that to be clumpy. So just keep whisking it until it's nice and smooth and it starts to thicken up. And then you're going to pour your asparagus bits into the pot, just like I've done here. And you're going to add about a teaspoon of white pepper, ground white pepper, a teaspoon of, or about a half teaspoon, honestly, of nutmeg, and about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of thyme. And I use about a teaspoon of onion powder, and about a half teaspoon of some garlic powder as well. Now, when you're doing your asparagus and you're boiling the asparagus prior to this step, you can also add in some onion, and I just go ahead and get about a quarter of a small onion or a medium onion, and I puree that in my Ninja and then just pour it into the roux before I actually get it into the soup. You can do that, it's optional. And you can add some rosemary if you wish, or I add herbs de Provence, which is about a teaspoon of herbs de Provence into the soup. And then I add about a cup to a cup and a half of heavy cream and a cup of milk. Just plain whole milk. And that kind of makes a half and half. You can use half and half if you want to, so you can put that together. If you were using half and half, you'd be doing two cups of half and half. And then you just keep stirring until it stays smooth. And then you want to add about a tablespoon of salt, or what you want to taste of salt. This is kind of going to be more of a bland soup. It's not a super spicy soup. So it's really good for just an accent to a heavier meal, which we are really going to be kind of having soup and soup, because chili is kind of a soup, and that's what we're having is chili as well. So anyway, you're going to keep on cooking this soup for about 45 minutes to an hour. Just make sure you're stirring it often, so that way it doesn't stick on the bottom, and it's going to thicken up really nicely, as you can see the consistency where it's bubbling here. And you're going to keep it on, I actually turn it down to low, as you can see here. So I just turn it down to low, keep it cooking, and then sometimes I will cover it because that helps it to thicken, as you see here. And it's going to be a really, really nice soup to add to a meal. And that's all the steps that there is. It's a really simple soup to make. It's really delicious. Asparagus naturally has kind of a garlicky onion flavor once it's cooked. So you're going to taste like a little bit more of a garlicky, peppery kind of flavor when you pick those notes up when you're eating it. And it's a wonderful, great soup for a cold day. And then, of course, I've gone ahead and paired it with some Southern cornbread, because I am Southern and I know how to make cornbread without measurements. So I will try to give you a recipe on the measurements as much as I possibly can, because I do it by eye. But it will turn out the same if you use the measurements. So I will include that in the description down below. In fact, all the recipes for everything that I have here. And then I have a nice big pot of chili. And I do a red chili. I prefer it that way. And I like my chili pretty spicy. So as you can see, and I add corn to mine. So I have kidney beans, dark red kidney beans, as well as chili beans. And it's a mixture of ground bison and ground beef in here. Ground chuck, actually. And my homemade stewed tomatoes, as well as some crushed tomatoes in there. And a can of corn. And then I also chop up some onion, add into it. Put a little onion powder as well. I like mine to be really nicely flavored, that kind of sweet, caramelized onion type flavor in my chili, as well as the spice kick. So I will include all of the recipes down below. And I hope everyone's doing well. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notices of new videos as they come out. And I hope everyone is having a great evening, and we'll see you in the next one.